The Florida Panthers end the year 2023 on a 4-game winning streak and a total of 61 wins in the calendar year. Can they carry that momentum over to 2024?
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, January 2nd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On to get $20 off your first purchase. So happy 2024, everybody. Hope you all had a great new year, however you spent it. And great to see that as far as the hockey side of things, as far as the region of South Florida, that we got to see 2 wins to end the year, with the Panthers playing 102 games total in the calendar year, postseason and regular, with a total of 61 wins. But we're going to spend segment number 1 talking about the 2 games to end the year. Segment number 2 will be discussing the state of the Atlantic Division, now where the Florida Panthers stand. And segment number 3 will be discussing tonight's game between the Florida Panthers and the Arizona Coyotes, as the Florida Panthers start a 4-game road trip out in the Mountain and Pacific time zone. But let's talk about the Florida Panthers game against the New York Rangers on Friday, the 29th. A sold-out crowd of 19,723 on Friday night. And this game, really, for the most part, it was full of odd man rushes, especially for the New York Rangers side. And that's something that Sergei Bobrovsky, I mean, really, he was a big reason for the Florida Panthers coming up big, with a big save on Chris Kreider at first, and then Jimmy Vesey and Tyler Pitlick, their odd man rushes coming close together. Really, Bobrovsky was setting the tone a lot during the game. And I mean, also the Stars came out to play, fired up as far as playing as the best team in the NHL coming to town. You know that a lot of the snowbirds are here as far as the wintertime, and they get to see their teams play. And it's a great as far as getting more revenue for ownership for the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, as both Montreal and New York came to town as well. But also for the Panthers, and far as facing up against a goaltender who has had the Florida Panthers number over his career, Jonathan Quick, 12-4-0 coming into this game. And with this one, I mean, the back and forth, which this was a game that the Panthers never trailed. If you told me that sometime in May that this would be an Eastern Conference final matchup, I believe you, because I mean, just the style of plays, they just match each other as far as that. No one really took over this game as far as that. Even Paul Maurice spoke about it in his media availability after. You got to think about what's on the other side for the New York Rangers and all that. They have Stanley Cup aspirations last year. They go for it, getting Vladimir Tarasenko, Patty Kane, win the first 2 games in New Jersey, lose 3 straight, force a game 7, and then Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad are basically no-shows. They're rejuvenated, brought in a former captain, Blake Wheeler, who played under Paul Maurice, and a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, like we mentioned earlier, in Jonathan Quick, new coach Peter Laviolette. And right now they're one of the best teams in the NHL, if not the best as far as that. And got to give credit to the Panthers as far as that. Sam Reinhart gets 2 goals on the night, one of them on the power play. And the thing is, the Florida Panthers, I mean, opportunity after opportunity too, as far as that. Etulis Threaten got robbed of a goal by Jonathan Quick when he was on his stomach, and then lifts the leg up to make the save, as far as that as well. And I mean, you go 1 for 3 on the power play, perfect 3 for 3 against the league's best power play unit as well. And think about what the Panthers have done just over the last week and a half, where you go against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, they're struggling on the defensive end as far as depth and injuries and all that stuff, but still, top two teams in the NHL in power play, and you stop both of them, going a perfect 6 for 6 combined in that span, as far as that as far as specifically those two matchups and all. And don't forget also the Panthers' decision to bump up William Lockwood to the third line, and Paul Maurice joking after the game about not wanting someone to bump into Sergei Bobrovsky, kind of taking a little nudge at Nick Cousins, who bumped into Sergei Bobrovsky earlier in that game. And Alexander Barkov as well. What can we say about him? He had a streak of 6 goals, not him scoring, but 6 goals where he had an assist on it, 4 of them being primary of the 6 as well. And Paul Murray spoke about how he's not just he says, quote, he's not playing a puck game solely. It's not just about the passes and touches and things like that. He's physically involved in the game, and he's fast. He's noticeably quicker this year, close quote. And the first goal, where he gets it to Evan Rodriguez, a battle on the half wall, and then the second one to Sam Reinhart, where he backhands it as cutting it through the crease. Barkov wins a battle out at the end boards as well, and gets it to Sam Reinhart, who continues his surge as well, and just continues that race to Rocket Richard. And even the Panthers survived the scare when Alexander Barkov was hit by Alexis Lafreniere as well, where I didn't think that was a 5-minute major. Barkov's head was already going down as Lafreniere was going towards him. So 2-minute minor as far as that. But it's so weird, the terminology. Illegal check to the head, but it's a minor penalty as well. So just the terminology, but having it as a minor penalty is a little strange if you really say it out loud. But still, the Panthers avoided disaster. And this is the thing. You see Mika Zibanejad score shorthanded as well, and then the Panthers score shortly after, like a minute and 27 seconds after, and that's both without Alexander Barkov there as well. And credit to Carter Verhaeghe on his puck pursuit. When the shot goes and breaks Barclay Goodrow's stick, and then Carter Verhaeghe is there to get the puck and then beat Jonathan Quick, who it trickles by his blocker side as well. And even on the first goal by Erod, you see Jonathan Quick kind of beating himself up as far as that. And Barkov, even though he left the game, he still led the team in block shots as well. Sergei Bobrovsky going 31 of 34 of that one. So I would love to see this as an Eastern Conference final preview. And I will say, I think the Florida Panthers really did luck out on the scheduling, as far as them having the Rangers on the front end of a back-to-back as opposed to the back end of it. So and think about it like this: the second end of a back-to-back, I mean, for the Canadians, it was the first end for them, as Jake Allen starts for the Montreal Canadiens. Very low pace affair as far as coming off an emotional win, and it's hard mentally to come back from that when you know that what's ahead, the New Year's Eve and all that. You know your record is 9-1-0 in the last 10 against the Montreal Canadiens as well, and all. And the Montreal Canadiens focusing and taking away the time and space away from the Florida Panthers top guns as well. And then Eetu Luostarinen breaks the ice for 2 power play goals. And the first one, him falling back and batting one in as well. Unfortunately, the power play streak, the streak of killing off the opposition's power plays did come to an end when Cole Caulfield scored and beat Anthony Stolarz, as Stolarz committed low and Caulfield goes up high as well. And really, it really, for the Panthers, really hard time generating stuff in the third period, but until Oliver Ekman-Larsson was taken down by Joel Armia, and then Eetu scores again as well, and his first career multi-goal game, and both of them happened to be on the power play. And how about that? Depth scoring and on the power play as well. You're not relying on the top guns to as far as the scoring. And Eetu, close to 10 goals on the season as well. As far as the records and performance and all, the Panthers top power play unit almost scored. Well, they were scoring as the power play ended, but 20 seconds before, they're called for an offside as the puck just gets out of the zone on a clearing attempt, and Barkov had a feed to Verhaeghe that on the score, but that could have been the record for 416 career assists in a Florida Panthers sweater. But we're gonna have to wait to see another. We're gonna have to wait to see this for another game for Alexander Barkov to officially break that record, which Barkov is going to have every single record in Florida Panthers history once everything is said and done. And think about this in the Panthers matchups against the Montreal Canadiens. 7 goals against the Montreal have been scored in the third period in their first 2 games. And the first 2 in the first 40 minutes, only 2. So the Panthers, as far as turning it on late against Montreal, you don't want to get into that habit as far as the Panthers go. But you know that on the second end of a back-to-back, it's a little tougher, and then when you finally get your confidence going, everything breaks from there as well. Sam Reinhart now on a point streak of 4, which is 6 points in that span, 5 goals and 1 assist. My goodness, once again, he is just incredible as well. Paul Maurice had a lot of praise on Arizona Arena about what he does off the ice. About it's not just in the gym, and there's and it's even, and he's talking about how pushing himself every day in practice, in games, keeps striving, and all, and talks about how the hands aren't wobbly and they're not fatigued as well, as far as Etu Serena, as far as just keeping it going as well. And let's talk about the fourth line as well. Spoke about William Lockwood going on the third line for in the middle of the game against the New York Rangers. But how about that fourth line? Kevin Stenlund, Ryan Lomberg, and William Lockwood as well. And Lockwood is making a big case to stay. Signed a 2-way deal for the Panthers in the offseason, and now it's really hard to send him down. That line had a Corsi for of 16-6 and a shots for percentage of over 88%, 8 shots to 1 when that group was on the ice, consistently forechecking, getting in the opposition's face as well, taking away the time and space, as the Montreal Canadiens were taking away the time and space for the top 6. The bottom 6, as far as that, were making up for it. So it's in a time where we talked about so much about depth scoring as well on one night, and hopefully this continues into the new year. The Panthers can be fairly satisfied as how everything broke towards the end of 2023. But in segment number 2, we are going to discuss how things have fared in the Atlantic Division over the weekend, a World Junior update as well, and maybe talk a little bit about the Winter Classic as well. So we're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time, and you shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all in prices from your seat, the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And you could see last minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals. Easy to find and buy tickets in every kind of event in your area. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All in prices to show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds in just 2 taps. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the best place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets like football, basketball, hockey, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seat for big-time savings. And the Game Time guarantees means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and rows for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So it was a great, and I mean great, end to the new year for the Florida Panthers. As far as it's funny because I my first thought was, oh my goodness, the Florida Panthers are ended on a 4-game winning streak and they got help. But it's like the way I see it is, as far as help, is like more of when you're behind. So Panthers helped themselves more importantly as far as the weekend that was. And listen, it's really tough for all NHL teams with so many things on your mind with the holidays, your personal lives, and all that stuff. And the majority of teams, or I think every team, has plays 3 out of 3 games in 4 nights as well, including uh, a back to back as well. That's not easy as far as that. And the Panthers got through that stretch. 3 of the 4 games. I know the Vegas Golden Knights game was in the middle of a 3-game break and all, but you won your three of the last 4 against Stanley Cup championship contenders as well. So that's an awesome thing for the Panthers as well. A quick World Junior update is that Czechia defeated Canada by a final score of 3-2 earlier this morning, excuse me, on with 11 seconds left to advance to the semifinal. So Marek Alsher and Team Czechia will be playing in the semifinal on Thursday. So, and as of this recording, last time I checked, USA Hockey is currently up on Latvia by a score of 4-1. And Sandis Vilmanis got 2 goals in the last game. Did not watch the last game for Latvia, but I listened to Sebastian High of Locked On NHL Prospects earlier today and spoke about how a lot of play was driven through Sandis Vilmanis for Team Latvia as they got their victory the other day, avoiding relegation as well. So Latvia will be brought back to the tournament next year. And also, I want to talk about the Winter Classic as well yesterday at T-Mobile Park in Seattle. Big success. And also, I prefer baseball parks for the Winter Classic over football stadiums. I just think the aesthetic is a lot better as well. And they showcased it really well. Hopefully, one day we see a Stadium Series game at Lone Depot Park, home of the Miami Marlins. Less than 3 miles away from the old Miami Arena there. So you could dedicate it to the 1996 team as well, from where the Panthers started and all, and you have a roof as well in case things go wrong as far as humidity and all. And the Winter Classic had a left-handed guitarist playing the national anthem, and there were 2 famous guitarists, left-handed, who came from the state of Washington: Kurt Cobain of Nirvana and Jimi Hendrix as well. So please bring the Stadium Series to South Florida, please, or a Winter Classic, please. So back to the Atlantic Division as well. Was it a good weekend? Was it a great weekend? And we spoke about the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. As far as last week, the Panthers and competing for the division. Heading into the game against Tampa Bay, Jacob Winans and I even spoke about it, how this is an important stretch where even though the Panthers at the time had games in hand, you lose that one against Tampa Bay, they are tied with you in points. Panthers rattle off a few wins as well, and you see that Tampa Bay loses at home on their front end of a back-to-back, while the Rangers were on the back end of it, where they had Igor Shesterkin in. Panarin scores a hat trick as well. And also, let's also not forget what the firepower that New York came into that game. Mika Zibanejad was going into the game in Sunrise with an 8-game point streak as well. So Panthers really were able to grind out that win, as it was just a back and forth affair as well, especially after having a 2-goal lead as well. But Tampa Bay survived against the Montreal Canadiens, where the Habs go up 2-0, and on the second goal, this was hilarious when I saw it. Sam Montembeault looked to have frozen the puck before you're able to freeze the puck. He gets it to Kovacevic, and then everyone thinks the play is dead. Jonas Johansson goes out of the crease, and then Kovacevic scores cross ice. Everyone's confused, but it's a goal. However, the Tampa Bay Lightning did come back and win that one, but they dropped 2 of 4. Toronto, they were up 4-2 against Columbus and ended up surrendering a multi-goal lead. Fantilli scores. Adam Fantilli scores a game-time goal, and Johnny Gaudreau finishes it in overtime. And is this the last of Ilya Samsonov with the Toronto Maple Leafs? But since he's been placed on waivers and everything that's been going on with contract dispute, arbitration, thinking that he's worth this much, but the Toronto Maple Leafs saying no, you are worth this much, and the relationship seems to be all but over. But for Ilya Samsonov and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Joseph Wall's not healthy too for Toronto. So a look at that. It's as far as standings go, before I actually read them to you, it's looking good for the Panthers as well. And for the Leafs, they lose in a low-scoring affair at home and get a garbage time goal late against the Carolina Hurricanes at home too, with Martin Jones in net. So Toronto drops 3 of 4 points. Now their goalie tandem is Martin Jones and their 2022 fourth-round pick, Dennis Hilleby, as well. So that's what the goal tandem looks like for Toronto. And John Klimberg, he's out. He's out, possibly never playing hockey again as well. So great position for the Panthers. Boston, unfortunately, doesn't drop any points. Win 5-2 against New Jersey at home, then travel to Detroit and win 5-3. That one I actually watched live on New Year's Eve, was watching NFL Red Zone. Unfortunately, after the Dolphins get destroyed on the road in Baltimore, win next week and your AFC East champions, but was watching NFL Red Zone after the Dolphins game, along with some hockey, had the Red Wings Bruins game, and a little bit of a scare for the Red Wings as Trent Frederick collides into Alex Lyon. He stays in the game, but Boston eventually ends up winning 5-3. So it looks like to be a 2-team race for the Atlantic Division for Florida and Boston. And just looking at the standings, the Florida Panthers are 2 points behind the Boston Bruins, but the Bees do have a game in hand on the Florida Panthers. But you face the Boston Bruins not once, but 2 more times towards the end of the season. So it's going to be a while before the Panthers have their swing game against the Boston Bruins. So still a lot to take care of. You still have a trade deadline. You still might have something unforeseen that might happen, which we don't wish on either teams as far as health. But with the Panthers and Bruins, 2 more, once in March and once in April as well. So it's you're looking at this and everything is starting to take shape. And 36 games in, which 5 games away from the halfway point technically, even though All-Star break is a little bit after the halfway point, but great shape. 5 points up against the Maple Leafs. Yeah, Toronto does have 2 games in hand, but what did the old host of Locked On Panthers, Frank Rikas, always say on this program? Games in hand don't really matter unless you win them. So that is if you're the Florida Panthers, you don't want to look behind. You just want to keep looking ahead. And everything for the Panthers is right in front of them. As far as we spoke about how the schedule is really tough in the month of January, but then it opens up. And boy, do the Panthers have a tough one on their hands tonight as they go into Mullett Arena and face the Arizona Coyotes. And we're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And the NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get a $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab on FanDuel. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and more. So this is your chance as the NFL season is wrapping up. Week 18 is here. The push for the playoffs. The Dolphins, are locked into are into a playoff spot, but not locked into their seeding, with a big chance to clinch the number 2 seed and hopefully guarantee at least 2 home games in the NFL postseason. So if you want to place those bets on anything Miami Dolphins related and more, you can visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Third and final segment here on this Tuesday, January 2nd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Tuesday. So we are about 30 minutes away from the Panthers taking the ice at Mullett Arena for morning skate, 1:30 morning skate. And we already do have updates on the Arizona Coyotes on who will be starting in net for them. Karel Vejmelka will be in net for the Arizona Coyotes, and defenseman J.J. Mosier will be back in the lineup for the Yotes as they open up a 5-game homestand. A crowd of about 4,000, 5,000 fans there. But listen, I'm not going to crap on Arizona as far as their arena situation, because as a guy who cheered on a team from a small market and hearing all types of relocation rumors as well, we want to cheer for the Arizona Coyotes as far as their pursuit for a new arena, and they're one step closer to it. Somewhere outside of the Phoenix area is that the Arizona Coyotes are looking to, and they're looking into a situation where they don't it doesn't have to come down to a public vote as well. So we are hoping the best for Arizona as far as that. The Panthers, they might be 4-1-0 in their last 5 against the Arizona Coyotes, but this team is no longer a doormat. They are tough, they are tenacious, and they are fun to watch as well. We know of the guys like Lawson Krause, a former Panthers draft pick, Nick Bukestad, another first-round pick for the Florida Panthers, who actually came back to the Arizona Coyotes and re-signed after being traded to the Edmonton Oilers. Now he's Bukestad is centering that second line with Lawson Krause on the wing for the Arizona Coyotes as well. So as far as that, not a doormat anymore. As far as that for the NHL, they are on their way to the race for one of the last wild card spots in the Western Conference. So spoke about how big of a stretch this is for the Florida Panthers. First of their 4 games in the Mountain and Pacific time zone, well, including one in Central time zone, which, by the way, the state of Arizona is the only state in the U.S. that does not change time zones as far as daylight savings. So I never know what time zone they're in based on the time of year as well. But it will be a 9:00 puck drop for the Florida Panthers and the Arizona Coyotes tonight. As far as practice updates, no Nico Mikkola at practice, as the Panthers had an early practice too, the day after, on New Year's Day, right before flying. So, and also a picture resurfaced of the Panthers celebrating New Year's Eve together as well. So cool to see that the team is spending some time together off the ice as well. And 10:30 a.m. practice on New Year's Day. Not easy as far as that. Guys couldn't party hardy as far as that right before. But if they did, they would have to hide it well coming to practice the very next morning and then jump right onto a flight as far as that to head to Arizona. So we don't expect Nico Mikkola to miss any time unless Paul Maurice says something later this afternoon or morning in Arizona when the Panthers do eventually take the ice. But as far as success against the Arizona Coyotes, Matthew Tkachuk has 25 points in 19 career games against Arizona, 25% shooting, including a hat trick last year. Let's not forget the start of the Panthers' run towards the postseason to get that last wildcard spot. It was that second game of the new year. Matthew Tkachuk gets a hat trick in a victory over the Arizona Coyotes at the time FLA Live Arena for the Panthers. Barkov, 11 points in 14 games, 5 goals, 6 assists. Here's one thing. Carter Verhaeghe does not have a single point yet against the Yotes in 6 games, and he's a -1. So maybe this is an opportunity for Carter Verhaeghe to, even though you only face a team twice a year if it's out of conference, maybe maybe exercise some demons against a specific team. No pun intended, as Mullett Arena is also the home of the Arizona State Sun Devils as well. So no pun intended there. Sam Reinhart, 11 points in 14 games, 3 goals, 8 assists as well. And Sergei Bobrovsky, assuming he's going to be the starter, 9-2-1, 935 save percentage, and a 2.02 GAA against the Arizona Coyotes in his career as well. As far as Arizona, goals for is 17th in the league. Goals against are 11. We spoke about last week. I believe we touched a little bit on Arizona about what they're doing. And Connor Ingram, we saw him a little bit in Nashville, and now he looks to be the number one starter for the Arizona Coyotes. But like I said at the top of this segment, we will be seeing Karel Vejmelka in the crease for the Arizona Coyotes. Power plays improve, PKs improve. You use some of your draft assets as well. If you're Bill Armstrong, and go after guys like a Sean Durzi from the LA Kings, use a second round pick as well. And also use some of your homegrown talent as far as Logan Cooley as well, who's in his first year with Arizona as well. He did collide at the end boards last week and had a little bit of a scary situation there, but he is back and healthy for the Arizona Coyotes. So he is definitely one to look out, even though he is playing on the bottom six for the Arizona Coyotes. So it's and their timeline as far as trying to rebuild and get their new stadium look to be right on schedule as far as that, because the plan for the Arizona Coyotes, it looked to be that they were trying to be competitive after their 3-year lease with Mullett Arena expires, and the trajectory looks pretty damn good. Also, let's also not forget another part of their defense as far as keeping goals out of the net. Matt Dumba was rumored to be traded so many times during his time with the Minnesota Wild, and now it seems that hope, at least from an outsider's perspective, it seems he has a big presence with the decor of the Arizona Coyotes there as well. And we spoke about guys coming to Florida to retire in years past. It might be the same thing in Arizona at first, and now they could be turning it around too. So we'll see about that. Only time will tell when it comes to that. Other players to look into is Clayton Keller, for sure. He is leading the team in points, but he's a -14. So that stuck out to me when I looked up the stats right before coming into and recording this show. The goal differential for the Coyotes at 5-on-5 +8, but they are 30th in the NHL in shots for per game. So what's going to be a big key? Probably defensive zone draws as far as clearing the puck and as far as denying zone entries for the Arizona Coyotes as well, and keeping them to the outside and lowering the quality of shots as well for the Arizona Coyotes, as far as the Panthers trying to just continue what they ended 2023 with and starting 2024, as this could be major separation season for the Panthers in the Atlantic Division. It's already getting there. We spoke about the separation between them and Toronto. Oh man, can they separate themselves more with this stretch of games, with Arizona tonight, Vegas on Thursday, Colorado. It's not going to be easy, but to set the tone tonight can go a very long way. On tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, it will be a Winans Wednesday edition of the show, as Jacob Winans will be returning to the podcast to recap the Florida Panthers game against the Arizona Coyotes. It's going to be another late night, but we won't have many late nights anymore after this week. So grab your coffee and get ready, because it's some late night hockey coming tonight on Tuesday, January 2nd. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steve Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.